But he left one final warning.
1984 is, I believe, a quite terrifying masterpiece. So terrifying, in fact, I don't think I should like to read another like it.
I am not absolutely dissatisfied with it. I think it is a good idea, but the execution would have been better if I had not been under the influence of TB when I wrote it.
You once claimed that you have an ability to face unpleasant facts. Is that what you've demonstrated in 1984 by drawing an accurate portrait of the future?
I think that allowing for the book being, after all, a parody, something like 1984 could actually happen. This is the direction the world is going in at the present time.
Hey, I even make some brothers jealous.
In our world, there will be no emotions except fear, rage, triumph and self-abasement. The sex instinct will be eradicated. We shall abolish the orgasm. There will be no loyalty except loyalty to the party. But always there will be the intoxication of power. Always, at every moment, there will be the thrill of victory, the sensation.
Keep that lead out there. Keep that lead out there.
Enemy who is helpless.
That's it.
If you want a picture of the future,
go in straight and go back out laterally.
Imagine stamping on a human face forever. The moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you.
Can you count, suckers? I say the future is ours. If you can count. Come on, Cyrus, we're with you. Go ahead, bro. Now look what we have here before us. We've got the Saracens sitting next to the Jones Street Boys. We've got the Moon Runners right by the Van Cortlandt Rangers. Nobody is wasting nobody. That is a miracle. And miracles is the way things ought to be. And miracles is the way things ought to be. I can dig it. I can dig it.
Tell you what. Now, to balance the scale, I'd like to talk about some things that bring us together. Things that point out our similarities instead of our differences. Because that's all you ever hear about in this country is our differences. That's all the media and the politicians are ever talking about, the things that separate us, things that make us different from one another. That's the way the ruling class operates in any society. They try to divide the rest of the people. They keep the lower and the middle classes fighting with each other so that they, the rich, can run off with all the fucking money. Fairly simple thing happens to work. You know, anything different, that's what they're going to talk about. Race, religion, ethnic and national background, jobs, income, education, social status, sexuality, anything you can do, keep us fighting with each other so that they can keep going to the bank. So, stirring up the shit is something I like to do from time to time, but I also like to know that I can come back to these little things we have in common, little universal moments that we share separately, the things that make us the same. They're so small we hardly ever talk about them. Do you ever look at your watch and then you don't know what time it is? And you have to look again and you still don't know the time. So you look a third time and somebody says, "What time is it?" You say, "I don't know." Do you ever notice how sometimes all day Wednesday you keep thinking it's Thursday. And it happens over and over all day long. And then the next day, you're all right again. Same thing happens when you're going down the stairs. You could swear there was one more step. Holy shit.
I can dig it!
Our sense of identity has an enormous impact on how we interact with the world. Whether consciously or subconsciously, we act and react based on who we think we are. And like it or not, our sense of individual identity is highly influenced by group identities. A low-level example of this principle can be found in the way that we respond to insults and humor. For instance, if you think of yourself as a Christian, a joke about Jesus may enrage you. If you define yourself as an atheist, the same joke might make you laugh to the point of tears. The same principle applies to political satire and insults. The difference in reaction is a consequence of group psychology. Humans came into existence as a pack animal. For the first 190,000 years of human history, the chain of identity for human groups was based on natural relationships. The individual was part of a nuclear family, which was part of an extended family, which was part of a tribe. This could be further extended to the level of the human species and life itself. And many tribes did conceive of non-human life forms as distant relatives. But many tend to think of ancient humans as primitive. Their concept of identity was more tied to a concrete reality than our own in most cases. It was tied to a genetic reality. In such societies, the tribe was the outer boundary of group identity and defense for survival purposes. This was an evolutionarily stable configuration, just as the pack is an evolutionarily stable configuration for wolves. However, the beginning of what we often refer to as civilization 10,000 years ago marked a drastic change in the structure of society, and therefore the chain of identity. The tendency of the species to gravitate towards a pack or herd configuration is a deep-seated evolutionary adaptation. It does not disappear just because external circumstances happen to change for a few centuries, or even millennia. This principle can be observed in dogs who treat human families who adopt them as their pack, and treat the so-called human owner as the alpha male. Thousands of years of captivity have not altered this behavioral pattern. In humans, this effect is just as pronounced. However, it's largely ignored because civilization is almost never considered as a variable to study human psychology. Humans still instinctually seek a tribe, but since this is no longer available in its natural form, they create replacements. Examples of such replacements are religions, political affiliations, sports teams, and gangs. These groups fill the role of the tribe psychologically, and as a result they become part of the individual identity of the members. The inherent danger in this tendency lies in the fact that many of these artificial groups come with ideological packages, bundles of ideas that members are expected to accept as a whole. Accepting the group identity, therefore, means accepting an ideological identity. And in its advanced forms, individuals become incapable of distinguishing their beliefs from their sense of self. Self-identification with an ideology, by definition, places us at odds with reality.
10 seconds.
Reality is what it is regardless of our beliefs. But when we are emotionally attached to an idea, reality is viewed as a threat if it contradicts our preconceived notions. Ideological self-identification also makes it very easy to control, since most of these artificial groups are hierarchical in structure and are dominated by a handful of individuals at the top. In sociology, this is referred to as vertical collectivism, and it is in fact the dominant social structure worldwide. Powerful leaders take advantage of this condition by redefining the group identity. In modern times, we see this in the left-right paradigm.
There he goes again.
Which is in fact an example of two artificial group identities which have been cultivated in order to divide the population. Liberals and conservatives are so thoroughly conditioned with their prepackaged beliefs that they're largely incapable of even communicating with each other on charged topics. As such, unifying politically in the face of a common enemy is out of the question. Of course, even saying this will provoke defensive reactions. Neither liberals or conservatives like the idea that their identities have been intentionally manipulated, or that their ideological framework is more a result of group psychology than of facts or logic. But again, reality is what it is, regardless of what we prefer to believe.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?